Please join me in giving a very enthusiastic commencement welcome to Mary B. Lucas, BD. Speaking as the BD, which stands for Butcher's Daughter, congratulations on successfully beefing up your resumes. Good job. So you combine the staffing industry background I had working in the placement company and the Butcher's Daughter, and I think you've done a really good job helping ensure that your career goes where you want it to go. And next, to all of you family members and friends, I can't tell you what a blast it is to sit where I'm sitting and watch all of you so proud. You just, I look at, you've got the cameras and all of the videos going, and it's really fun to see that. I do know a thing or two about family support because, as Janine said, I did grow up number 9 of 10 children to John and Mary Bickelmeyer of Shawnee, Kansas. We would, God bless, Joan, Judy, Johnny, Jimmy, Joey, Jerry, Jeannie, Jane, Mary, and Barbara. Okay, the next question is, why weren't you a J? Well, I would have been Jeff if I was a boy, but my mother's name was Mary. They thought I'd be the last baby, so they named me after my mother, Mary. And then, lo and behold, Barbie came along. So, number 9 of 10 children, I do know a thing or two about family support. And one thing I was always so impressed with my parents, my mom and dad would never ever say, "I'm so proud of you," and have it just be spotlight on us. They'd always finish that, "I'm so proud of you, just as I am all my children." We were always reminded that we were part of something bigger than ourselves, no matter what our accomplishments were, and we all had many. We were always reminded that it was the family around us supporting us that was really the greatest source of our support and our ongoing place to go. And that's what I'm really going to talk about today. I'm going to give you a little bit of wisdom, yes, and as Janine talked about, it was, well, actually it was 30 years ago. I can't believe I admit that, but 30 years ago that I was sitting where you are graduating. And I had a commencement speaker too, and he was awesome. And he got up and he talked about, be the change you want to see in the world, go out there and give back now to the community, do realize your dreams, all these things. And he really was amazing and he inspired me. Yet one thing he didn't do was he didn't tell me how to do that, how to be the change in the world I wanted to see. I didn't get really any grassroots wisdom. That's what I'm going to share with you today, courtesy of my dad. Now, I don't want to take anything away from my mom. Both my parents have passed away, and I don't want my mom to think this Mother's Day weekend I'm not thinking about her. I am. But my mom was more that safe haven, that kind of go-to person that when you needed that unconditional love or a hug. My dad was just out there. He was a butcher, and if any of you know Bickelmeyer Meats in Kansas City, Kansas, the business is still there today. The place to go in our family home was the butcher block table. So whenever you needed a little bit of advice or inspiration, you'd go to my dad, get that at the butcher block table, and you'd feel like you could go out back into the world and just tackle anything, because he always made you feel good about yourself, helped you be the best you could be. Well, courtesy of my dad, I'm going to share a few bits of advice as to how to do the things you want to do, because he only had an 8th grade education. Combined with what you've all accomplished, with your degrees you're about to walk away with today, and my dad's 8th grade wisdom, 8th grade education, and the wisdom he shared, I think you're going to have a winning combination. So here goes. Here's what my dad told me right after I graduated. I got my first job with the temporary help company. He said, "You're going into the people business." I said, "Yeah, Dad, I am." He said, "Come on over here to the butcher block table. I want to share some advice to what you need to do tomorrow when you start your first day of work." I said, "Okay." I kind of rolled my eyes. I mean, I was 22 at the time, and I'm sure none of you were ever 22 and full of yourself, but I was. I rolled my eyes. What's my dad going to tell me? He has an 8th grade education. He's a butcher. And he says, "Come on over here." And I walked over, sat down across from him, took a piece of salami and white bread, and started nibbling and listening to him. And he said, "I want to tell you tomorrow, when you start your job, you need to remember, when you go out there, you're going to meet new people every single day. You're going to interview new people. You're going to meet new clients. I want you to remember that the first hunk of meat you sell is yourself." And I looked at him, and I didn't laugh either. I thought I wasn't entirely an unattractive young woman, and I said, "Really? That's what you want to tell me? The first hunk of meat you sell is yourself to your daughter?" And he looked at me, and he had these really big brown eyes, and he looked really deep into my eyes, and he said, "Yeah, I do. And you can call it whatever fancy words you want. You can say anything you want. So maybe if it makes you feel better about yourself, talk about the fact that you need to make sure you always make a great first impression. You never get a second chance to make a great first impression. Do that if you want. But the most important thing you need to remember every time you meet someone for the first time is what kind of impression are you making? And that was one of the most, I think, insightful things as far as changing how I thought about him, because maybe he did know a thing or two about how to succeed in business. He was always worried about the kind of impressions he was making on people. If you went down to the meat market on a Saturday, if you went down there today, you'd have to take a number, wait in line. They're always making sure. How you doing, number 16, hanging in there with me, number 24? He's always worried about making a great first impression, acknowledging people, looking them in the eye. All the things that you probably know instinctively, and somebody, maybe your parents told you too. But those are the kinds of things you combine with your degree, and that 8th grade wisdom will really help you. And right after that, he said to me, I don't want you to forget the comeback sauce either. I said, don't forget the comeback sauce? He said, yeah. You don't have to be just mindful about the first impression you make. You want to be mindful of making a lasting impression. I said, and how do you suppose I do that? He said, don't forget to pour the comeback sauce on everybody you want to come back. I said, okay, Dad, where'd you come up with that one? He said, when I started the meat market, you know, my dad was number 9, well, he was number 2 of 10 children, and he was a depression baby, so he had to come in after he graduated from 8th grade and work in the meat industry in Kansas City, Kansas, and send money home to his family. His mother died when he was 42. He needed to help his father with the other children at home, so he'd send money back every week to help his family, so he didn't get to finish school. And he said, I really worked hard to realize my dream, but I wasn't able to do that, open my own meat business, until I had 7 mouths to feed, 5 kids and your mom and me. I opened up Johnny's Market in Kansas City, Kansas, 7th in Cheyenne, and when I opened up, I took 2 guys with me. I'd worked for Mr. Snow for years. I took 2 guys with me, and we opened up. Mr. Snow said, good luck. I thought he really meant it, but I realized a couple of weeks after we were in business that he didn't really mean it so much. The 2 guys that I brought with me came back and they said, John, we're in trouble. We were at Sammy's bar last night and we heard Mr. Snow and a couple of your other competitors talking about the fact that they were going to have us out of business within the next month or so. And Dad said he looked at him, he could tell they were really worried. And he looked at him and he said, how do they propose to do that? He said, they said every time we advertise a price per pound, they're going to advertise 10 cents per pound cheaper. And they said you probably couldn't afford to be in business much longer. And Dad said he looked at him and he smiled. He didn't want to laugh at him right away because he could tell they were really worried. And he said, guys, the joke's on them. We don't have any money to advertise. All we got is comeback sauce. And they looked at him kind of puzzled. What do you mean, John? What do you mean by comeback sauce? He goes, I don't know, you figure it out. Every time somebody comes into this market, you look at them, you serve them the best to your ability, and you make sure when they walk out the door that you don't let them leave until you've poured a little comeback sauce on them. You want to make sure they want to come back. If you don't think they want to come back, pour a little bit more on them. Well, how do you propose we do that, John? I don't know, you'll figure it out. You're smart, guys. Look at them. If they ask for a pound and you know they're down on their luck, give them a little extra, smile at them, wink, and say, gave you a little extra, always come back to Johnny's Market and we'll take care of you. Make sure you come back and see us. Tell your friends. Maybe it's these little skinny Bic sticks they have up by the counter. I don't know what it is. You'll figure it out. And this is long before the words empowerment were in vogue. You know how in your textbooks you read about empowerment and leadership, and he just basically said, pour the comeback sauce on everybody you meet that you want to come back, and I bet they'll come back. And they are. Like I said, Bickle-Meyer Meats is still in existence 60 plus years later, and guess what? Today's the busiest day. They were voted one of the top 5 Mexican restaurants in Kansas City, and they're not even a restaurant. Because on Saturdays now, one of their recipes for comeback sauce is they lay out the carnitas, the tacos, a lot of the authentic Mexican fare, and they have people coming in just to get that, not all the special cuts of meat that you can get there. You don't know what your recipe is for comeback sauce, and part of what you need to do as graduates is figure out what is your recipe and who you're going to pour it on. And it might be some of your family members who are so proud of you, just as they are all their children.